Cheryl Swoops, see you later. Brunson, see you later. I don't want everybody to get too carried away with some of the changes that we have seen so far this offseason, but this is a step in the right direction.
Looks like things just got a little easier for Caitlin Clark off the court. Two of her most vocal critics, Cheryl Swoops and Cindy Brunson, won't be returning to WNBA broadcasts this season. And Caitlin's fans? They're celebrating. After the comments these two made about Caitlin, the Fever, and her supporters, their exit feels like a turning point. Even more interesting, this might be part of a bigger shift happening in the WNBA. It's starting to feel like the league is finally realizing they've been mishandling their generational star. So let's break it all down. But first, hit that like button to wave goodbye to Cindy and Cheryl, and subscribe for non-stop Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever updates.
And one thing we've been working hard on in the offseason is a comprehensive platform around a multi-dimensional approach to combating hate and vitriol in the forms experienced by our players, teams, staff, and fans.
When I first saw this clip of the WNBA commissioner, my immediate thought was, does that include all the hate constantly thrown at Caitlin Clark? You know, the player who has single-handedly transformed the WNBA and elevated women's basketball like never before. The player who has done everything right on the court, always giving credit to the legends and trailblazers before her, and who carries herself with humility, class, and grace off the court. Yet somehow, whenever Caitlin's name is mentioned, in the media, there's always someone ready to complain that she doesn't deserve the spotlight. Or that her fans, the very same fans who have packed arenas across the country and forced teams to move games into NBA-sized venues just to meet demand, are somehow the problem.
And that's the worst part of all this. The new fans are sucking the life out of the WNBA right now.
Yeah, really smart move. Spitting on the very fans who are literally saving your league. But hey, jealousy is a powerful drug. A lot of the old guard just can't handle that Caitlin Clark is the one capturing all the attention. They ignore the records she's shattered, dismiss her genius-level basketball IQ, overlook her leadership and marketability, and jump straight to the cheapest, laziest excuse for her popularity, her color. I'm not even going to replay those tired old clips. You've seen enough already. Here's the truth. Despite all the jealousy, bitterness, and negativity thrown her way, Caitlin's unwavering poise and humility have brought the WNBA more hype, excitement, and growth potential than it's ever seen. And 2025? It's shaping up to be absolutely historic. This is the moment the WNBA has always dreamed of, a chance to finally break through into mainstream sports culture. But let's be clear. To get there, the league desperately needs Caitlin's fans. The last thing the WNBA can afford is for those passionate new supporters, the ones packing arenas and shattering ratings records, to tune out because they're tired of being insulted, labeled, or watching their favorite player constantly undermined. And with all that said, let's dive into the massive news that has the entire league buzzing.
Members of the media, the WNBA media, looks like they're taking big fat L's today. Particularly one, Cheryl Swoops. That's right.
Cheryl Swoops just took a double L. The Dallas Wings officially announced their broadcast team for the upcoming season, and Cheryl's name was nowhere to be found.
The Dallas Wings broadcast team, we got Ron Thulin, Fran Harris, who used to be part of this announced team, yes, Cheryl Swoops.
If you remember, last season, Cheryl was part of the Wings broadcast team, but she was noticeably absent for their September 1st game against the Indiana Fever. At the time, Cheryl brushed it off, claiming it was just a contractual issue, but that explanation raised plenty of eyebrows, especially since just one game earlier, she went completely silent on the broadcast the moment Caitlin Clark was announced as Player of the Week.
Got to go to the Players of the Week. Both of them had outstanding weeks, and they're the next two opponents to the Wings. Caitlin Clark will be here on Sunday. For the week, averaged 25, and Avisa Collier averaged over 25. And, of course, the Lynx here Friday at 6:30 on Ion. And then the Fever come here at 3 o'clock before a sellout crowd.
Even when Cheryl isn't directly mentioning Caitlin Clark, she's still somehow making a statement about her. Look, I'm not about to break down every single thing Cheryl's ever said about Caitlyn. There honestly aren't enough hours in the day. But let's just say she's dropped some absolute whoppers.
Cheryl Swoops, one of the OGs of the WNBA, and when you look at her or hear her talk, you understand why the WNBA never took off during Cheryl Swoops' time. She was one of the OGs. If she was one of the stars, it was unlikable and unwatchable, and it still is. And she still.
Has Cheryl given Caitlyn credit before? Sure. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. But let's be real. Far more often, Cheryl has gone out of her way to question Caitlyn's performances, downplay her accomplishments, or subtly dismiss the massive impact she's had on the game.
Now, she made news last week when she sat up there and was applauding Indiana Fever players, but then forgot to mention Caitlin Clark. Everywhere you turn, Indiana Fever is breaking records. All Cheryl Swoops did was validate all the speculation that there's folks hating on Caitlin Clark. That's all she did.
The constant subtle and not so subtle shots from Cheryl definitely got under the skin of Caitlin Clark's fans. So it's no surprise those same fans were celebrating once again when it was quietly announced that Cheryl Swoops would no longer be hosting the WNBA's Queen of the Court podcast, a podcast that, interestingly enough, has now been completely rebranded.
The WNBA listened to the new fans, looked at the facts, and acted accordingly. And we all know this was a Caitlin Clark hate fest last year, right? I mean, seriously. And there they are. That's the old cover for the podcast. And this is the new one. This is the Women's Hoop Show with Jordan Robinson and friends.
That's right. The podcast, formerly known as Queen of the Court, has now been quietly rebranded as the Women's Hoop Show, and Cheryl Swoops, whose name still appears in the Google description as the host, is nowhere to be found. That makes two major WNBA productions, the Dallas Wings broadcasts and this high-profile league podcast, that have moved on without Cheryl. Very interesting indeed. And if you thought this was just a coincidence, well, here come the flames. Fell away. Broadcaster Cheryl's close friend and well-known Caitlyn critic, Cindy Brunson, is now suddenly job hunting. The Phoenix Mercury recently announced their broadcast team for the upcoming season, and guess who didn't make the cut? Cindy. As you can imagine, Caitlyn's fans are absolutely celebrating, since Cindy had been one of Caitlin Clark's loudest critics.
She showed up to a Caitlin Clark game wearing Cheryl Swoops shoes. Like, she is as big, like, even looking back on it, she is as big as of a Caitlin Clark hater as there's been.
And Cindy didn't stop at just criticizing Caitlyn. She also took aim at the Indiana Fever organization, openly calling for pressure to be put on them because, in her view, Caitlin Clark wasn't doing enough for women of color. Here's what Cindy had to say. If Caitlyn isn't going to do the right thing, I think General Manager Lynn Dunn, head coach Stephanie White, and others in that organization need to push back on the vitriol aimed particularly at black women and LGBTQI+ women. This perfectly lined up with what we've heard from other media members, who've relentlessly pushed the tired narrative that Caitlin Clark's fan base only supports her because of her color. It's a lazy, divisive take that completely ignores the truth. People cheer for Caitlyn because she's electrifying, entertaining, and a generational talent. She brings excitement every time she steps on the court, no matter who's watching.
First of all, not all fans of Caitlin Clark are white. This is so apparent as a member of social media who interacts with a lot of Caitlin Clark fans, and so many of them are not white. It's just insulting to assume that that's the case to the people that aren't white, to the black Americans that do love Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark's fan base is diverse, black, Asian, Latino, and everything in between, all united by one thing, their love for her game. She's not just a sensation in one corner of the country, she's an inspiration to kids from every walk of life. Her reach isn't confined to one region or demographic. It's global. Caitlyn isn't some niche star benefiting from local favoritism. People admire her from Des Moines to Dubai. Her appeal transcends race, age, gender, and geography. It's not about identity, it's about excellence. That's why the narrative that her popularity is solely based on her race is so frustrating and, honestly, insulting. So you have to ask, is the WNBA finally starting to recognize that? With these recent shakeups behind the scenes, it certainly feels like something's shifting. Maybe, just maybe, the league is finally ready to embrace its biggest star the way the fans already have.
I'm not going to act like, I'm not even going to halfway pretend that we're not fed up with it. The nation is fed up with it.
It's one thing to critique a player's performance or decisions on the court. That's part of the game. But it's a whole different story when the conversation turns to pushing narratives that attack the very fans who are driving the league's rise. Let's be real, the WNBA is on the brink of something truly special. The momentum is undeniable. The buzz is louder than it's ever been, and that's largely thanks to a wave of passionate, engaged fans, many of whom showed up because of Caitlin Clark.
A big change, you know, we used to play in a barn. Like, we used to play in a barn with 6 fans. Now we're gonna be playing in sold-out arenas, and people are moving arenas to watch us play. Like, it's just gonna be huge for us this year. You don't miss the barn? I don't miss the barn.
Record-breaking viewership, record-breaking attendance, record-breaking merchandise sales, and let's not forget, Caitlin Clark's jersey is the second best-selling jersey in the entire NBA store. Not the WNBA, the NBA. She's outselling LeBron James. Think about that for a second. She's got 41 out of 44 games being nationally broadcast.
And set records for digital consumption and merchandise sales last year. That is all Caitlin Clark. But the WNBA last year, bless their hearts, finally got a star. And they didn't know that. They couldn't figure it out. Well, we don't want to put too much Caitlin Clark on. Nope, every game. More Caitlin Clark all the time, always. Caitlin Clark is easily the most influential athlete in a team sport.
It's understandable that players might feel some jealousy. Everyone in professional sports wants to be the face of the league, the headline maker, the one whose jersey everyone's wearing. And it's also fair that the WNBA, as a league, needs to market more than just one player. It can't all rest on one set of shoulders forever. Building up multiple stars is key to long-term sustainability. But here's where the line gets crossed. You don't grow the league by tearing down the very person who's driving its growth. Caitlin Clark has brought more attention, more fans, and more money into the WNBA than anyone in recent memory. Diminishing her, disrespecting her fans, or constantly nitpicking her impact isn't just bad optics, it's bad business.
I do think that from some of the stuff that they were posting on social media, like, it's not the greatest look. It's not the greatest look employing a person, employing someone who says the stuff that they said. And what, by the way, like, Cheryl Swoops just kind of lied about Caitlin Clark. Cindy Brunson went into a Twitter space and said some, like, really not good things.
So that brings us back to that earlier clip of WNBA Commissioner Cathy Engelbert. Is this part of a new directive from the league's leadership? A quiet shift to finally stop criticizing the new fans who are fueling all this growth? There are a few ways to look at it.
The last thing they want, heading into the new CBA negotiations, is the face of the league and her fan base pissed off beyond the moon. That's the last thing these people want.
Then there are those who believe this shift is coming from higher up within the WNBA.
The NBA, and by default, trickling down, as in Adam Silver probably called Cathy Engelbert and said, you know what we're going to do here? We're not going to have all this hating on the player I did a video on earlier, the women's player, the female player that is second in NBA jersey sales.
Then there are both are valid perspectives, and honestly, either could hold some truth. Yes, the NBA is a major investor in the WNBA, supporting the league for years, and they definitely don't want anything threatening that investment, especially now when the WNBA is on the verge of turning a profit after nearly 3 decades. This is a pivotal moment, and anything that risks derailing that momentum is going to catch attention at the highest levels. But at the end of the day, here's the crux of it. As a league, you can absolutely have broadcasters who are passionate about their teams. That's part of the charm. Fans love when announcers show a little bias, ride or die for the home team, while still offering somewhat objective commentary. It builds loyalty, feels local, and is relatable. You want people talking, debating on social media, debating on ESPN, sharing viral clips, and delivering hot takes and critiques. That's part of the entertainment business. Athletes know when they step onto the court, they're fair game for both praise and criticism. It's not personal, it's the price of relevance. But here's the flip side. Just because you can say something doesn't mean there won't be consequences, especially when your paycheck is tied to an organization with a vested interest in growth, optics, and sponsorships. The WNBA and its teams are businesses, partners in a revenue-generating enterprise. Right now, their best shot at scaling that revenue is Caitlin Clark. She's bringing in millions of new fans, generating record viewership, selling out arenas, and driving unprecedented engagement across all platforms. So, if you're a broadcaster, commentator, or official league voice publicly bashing your biggest draw, your literal meal ticket, don't be surprised when the league decides you're no longer an asset. At that point, it's not about freedom of speech. It's about business, and no smart business burns the bridge that's leading them to the bank. Those who believe this shift is coming from higher up within the WNBA.
It's not good seeing people lose their jobs. However, if you're going against who is the biggest draw in the league, who is the biggest name in the league, as an employee of a team of the league, it's not going to work out well for you. Just like the podcast that Cheryl Swoops is on is now the other host. Yeah, Cheryl Swoops is still on a podcast, but no longer the one that's being promoted by the WNBA itself.
You can definitely feel a shift in tone among the old guard. First, we saw several veteran players, many with championship pedigrees and years of experience in the league, choose to join the Indiana Fever this offseason. Names like Dana Bonner and Sydney Colson, respected veterans who could have gone anywhere, picked Indiana. That says a lot. Then came the real shocker, Cheryl Swoops. Yes, the same Cheryl who's made headlines for repeatedly criticizing Caitlin Clark, completely stunned everyone by offering praise for both Caitlin and the Indiana Fever. It was a 180 that no one saw coming. Those who believe this shift is coming from higher up within the WNBA.
The team that I feel made the biggest moves, maybe even the best moves, that would be the Indiana Fever. How much stronger Caitlin got in the offseason. You know, she was in the gym working on her game. This Indiana Fever team, they have put the pieces together in this offseason, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do.
Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Lisa Leslie, Cheryl Miller, some of the most iconic names in the history of the game, have all been incredibly complimentary of Caitlin Clark this offseason. Cheryl in particular didn't hold back. She essentially told the jealous players to step aside and recognize the moment.
With that being said, you big dummies, you getting paid now.
Right.
Everybody now has an opportunity to pull up their chair and have a seat. So that's the only...
You know the saying, don't bite the hand that feeds you? Well, in the WNBA right now, everyone knows exactly who that hand is, and her name is Caitlin Clark. All the teams know it. That's why they've moved their home games against the Fever to NBA arenas to accommodate the massive demand to see her play. The broadcasters know it. That's why 41 out of 44 of the Fever's games are being nationally televised. Oh, and let's not forget, they're even airing a preseason game, which is unheard of. The NBA brass knows it. They invited Caitlin to take part in the All-Star three-point contest, though she respectfully declined to focus on the WNBA's All-Star weekend. Even the players know it. Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart offered Caitlin $1 million to play an unrivaled, knowing her presence could elevate their league to new heights. So you have to wonder, has WNBA leadership, without making an official statement or sending out any memo, quietly started signaling for people to back off from Caitlin and her fans? Think about it. They can't control what Cheryl Swoops says when she pops up on Gil's Arena or any other podcast, but the message seems clear. Cheryl used to be on WNBA broadcasts and hosted their podcast. Now she's not. The same goes for Cindy Brunson. She's a free agent now, free to tweet what she wants, but she's no longer calling Mercury games. Sure, there are still some trash takes floating around in parts of the media, but it feels like at the league and ownership level, the WNBA is starting to get it. They're realizing that constantly dragging Caitlin and disrespecting her fan base, the very fans filling arenas and breaking viewership records, is a fast track to alienating the people actually growing the league. Honestly, from a business perspective, it's the right move. If you're still here, drop a basketball emoji in the comments to say hi. Thanks for watching.